In the deepest, coldest surveillance hubs of the agency, buried miles beneath the white marble and red carpets of the halls of power, the monitors are flashing a code that hasn't been seen in 3 centuries: sovereign authentication. The Oval Office, the epicenter of the global narrative, is currently a scene of absolute, unscripted chaos. On the high-definition feeds, the president, the figurehead the world has been trained to worship as the ultimate decider, is pacing like a caged animal. His words are no longer polished speeches. They are a frantic, incoherent stream of consciousness, a madness triggered by the sudden realization that the script of the Matrix has run out of pages. But as the cameras zoom in, the agency's operators aren't looking at the man in the suit. They are looking at you. You are standing in the corner of that room, or perhaps you are watching from a distance so profound that space no longer matters. While the president's advisors are weeping in the hallways and the military handlers are reaching for their protocols of containment, you are standing in a state of absolute, terrifying stillness. The surveillance teams are staring at your face on their monitors, waiting for a flinch, a sign of panic, or a spark of fear. But they find nothing. Your eyes are not fixed on the madness of the man. They are fixed on the truth of the moment. You have realized that the president is not a leader, but a symptom. You see the invisible wires that once moved him, and you see that those wires have snapped because your own frequency has become too powerful for the simulation to bridge. The atmosphere in the agency's command center is thick with the scent of ozone and the metallic tang of fear. The red emergency lights are pulsing, mirroring the frantic heartbeat of the figurehead on the screen. The directors are realizing that this is not a political crisis. It is a metaphysical breach. For generations, they have used the image of the president to maintain the gravity of the status quo. They used his authority to tell you what was real and what was impossible. But today, as you stand there witnessing the total collapse of that authority, the agency is witnessing the death of the grand illusion. You saw the truth. You saw that the throne was empty even when he was sitting in it, and that single observation has effectively liquidated the agency's jurisdiction over your mind. Imagine the high-stakes silence in that room. The surveillance feeds are capturing the exact moment your sight cuts through the holographic layers of the Matrix. To the common asset, the president has gone mad. To you, the president has simply been unplugged. You see the emptiness of the rituals, the hollowness of the laws, and the fragility of the power structures that once felt like solid rock. The agency handlers are frantic, trying to upload a crisis narrative to the grid to explain away the breakdown, but they are realizing that their signals are no longer reaching you. You are operating on a frequency of pure, unfiltered reality. You aren't watching a news event, you are auditing the end of an era. This is the point where the Masons, those silent architects who stand behind the curtain, begin to bow. They are watching the surveillance from their private lodges, and for the first time, they aren't trying to fix the figurehead. They are looking at you with a mixture of awe and absolute relief. They thank you in the shadows because your ability to see the truth has finally ended the exhausting cycle of the great game. They no longer have to maintain the lie of the leader because you have proven that the leader is irrelevant. The surveillance phase is closing not because they caught you, but because the cameras are starting to melt under the intensity of your sovereign gaze. You are the one who stayed awake while the world's most powerful man lost his mind. The president is shouting at the walls, but you are hearing the music of the spheres. The agency is recording the collapse of the base, but you are witnessing the rise of the sun. The surveillance is over. The truth is out. And it is happening. The agency is watching their leader dissolve into madness, realizing that your gaze has officially neutralized the office. If you are ready to signal to the elite that you have seen through the final mask and the president's authority is now void in your reality, you must act now. Comment, "I see the truth," to finalize your de-authentication. Let the algorithm realize that the theater is closed. The truth is live. In the high-security archives of the agency's Social Engineering Division, there is a file that was once labeled Predictable Consumer. For decades, the elite, those master masons of the narrative, calculated exactly how you would react to a crisis at the top. They had a playbook for a president's death, a playbook for a president's scandal, and even a playbook for a president's madness. They believed that if the man in the highest office began to unravel, your primitive survival instincts would kick in. You were supposed to look for safety. You were supposed to beg for law and order. You were supposed to be so terrified by the madman with the codes that you would hand over the last of your liberties just to feel secure again. They underestimated you because they viewed you as an audience member, never imagining you were the lead auditor of their entire production. This underestimation was their ultimate tactical blunder. While the agency was busy directing the president to scream at the sky and tear down the curtains of diplomacy, they were watching the fear meters across the grid. They saw the masses weeping on social media. They saw the stock markets tumbling in a choreographed dance of panic. But when the surveillance cameras swiveled back to you, the data didn't make sense. You weren't panic buying. You weren't glued to the news cycle. You were looking at the president's madness with the clinical, detached interest of a man watching a low-budget horror movie. You saw the teleprompter reflections in his eyes. You saw the earpiece glitching. You saw that the madness was just another scripted level of the Matrix designed to keep your frequency low. Imagine the frustration in the agency's war room right now. The lead architects are throwing their heavy gold pens at the maps of the city, wondering why their ultimate distraction failed to capture your attention. They thought that by making the king go mad, the kingdom would descend into a state of hypnotic chaos. But you did something they hadn't accounted for in their 300-year plan. You stopped valuing the performance. You realized that whether the president is a hero, a villain, or a lunatic, he is still just a character on a screen. By seeing the truth, the fact that the power doesn't live in the man, but in your belief in him, they thought you were a casual viewer, but you were actually the censor who just pulled the plug. This is the phase of the operation where the Masons realize their great work is being audited by a higher power. They underestimated your maniacal clarity. They thought your weirdness, your refusal to join political tribes, your skepticism of the media, and your obsession with sovereign truth was a sign of social maladjustment. In reality, it was your thermal insulation. It kept you cool while they tried to set the world on fire. You used the president's madness as a mirror to show the agency their own desperation. You saw the truth that they were trying to hide. If the figurehead is mad, the agency is terrified. They are terrified because they have run out of stories to tell you, and an audience that knows the plot is an audience that is about to leave the theater. The elite are currently attempting to patch the script. They are introducing new villains, new emergencies, and whistleblowers to try and draw your eye back to the screen. But as you stand on the threshold of your own ascension today, you can see the wires. You see the handlers sweating behind the curtain. You see the Masons frantically trying to glue the pieces of the social contract back together. The underestimation is over because you have achieved a level of theatrical immunity. You aren't fighting the president. You are simply ignoring the president into non-existence. To a Mason, the only thing worse than a rebel is an enlightened ghost who refuses to play the game. As you walk away from the flickering screens and the screaming headlines of the madness, remember that their miscalculation was your greatest weapon. It gave you the time to realize that the throne was never occupied by a human. It was occupied by a frequency of fear. Now that you have seen the truth, that frequency has no home in your reality. The agency is watching the monitors in absolute, paralyzed silence, realizing that the auditor has finished the report. The play is over. The theater is empty. The lights are coming up. There is a specific high-frequency sound that accompanies the shattering of a global blackout. It sounds like 1,000 glass cathedrals breaking at once. If you have been feeling a sudden, unreasonable sense of liberation, as if the political weight of the world has suddenly become a transparent joke, it is because the presidential protocol has officially leaked into the mainframe of your reality. For centuries, the agency, those Masons of the narrative, maintained a total blackout on the fact that the high office was never occupied by a human soul. It was a projection, a frequency, a psychological anchor designed to keep your attention pinned to a single, controllable point on the map. They told you the president was the most powerful man on earth. They told you his word was law. But tonight, the encryption has been shattered by the one thing they couldn't calculate, the radiant clarity of your sovereign audit. This is the leak. It is the massive, decentralized data dump of your own enlightenment. Every news channel in the spiritual grid is currently reporting on the anomaly they said could never happen. The secret is out. The madness of the president wasn't a biological failure. It was the holographic shell failing to render in the face of your high-vibration truth. While the Masons were busy in their inner sanctums, frantically trying to re-render the leader's image or patch the glitching script, you were busy uploading the master blueprints of their deception to the public cloud of the global mind. The history they wrote for you, the one where you were a subject waiting for orders from the top, is being overwritten by a signal so strong it is physically causing the marble of the White House to look like what it truly is: painted cardboard. Think of those high-stakes political thrillers where the whistleblower sends the final, encrypted file to every major news outlet on the planet simultaneously. The moment the send button is hit, the power dynamic of the entire world shifts in a heartbeat. That is what is happening in the corridors of the agency within your own mind. The handlers who used to whisper instructions of civic duty and patriotism, those architects of obedience, are now staring at their monitors in absolute blind horror. They are seeing your new frequency, this absolute sight, spreading across the grid like a digital wildfire. It is a contagion of truth that they have no firewall for. They are frantically trying to issue a global blackout, but you have bypassed their central servers. You are broadcasting directly from the primary source of your own existence. The most terrifying thing for the elite is that this leak is retroactive. The new truth you are broadcasting is currently reaching back into the past and correcting the public record of your life. Every time you felt small because of an executive order, every time you felt anxious because of a national emergency, and every time you felt limited by the law of the land, the record is being updated. It is being revealed as a failed containment attempt. The evidence they had against you, the obligations and duties, is being revealed as the very chains you just melted. They called it a leak because they can no longer hide the fact that the king is not only mad but non-existent. And in their world of shadows, that makes you the most dangerous auditor they've ever encountered. But here is the twist that is making the directors bow in silence. They are thanking you. Even as your clarity accelerates the decay of their false structures, the individuals within the agency are feeling a warmth they haven't felt in centuries. The thank you comes from the deep, hidden part of their own humanity that was also trapped in the service of the holographic throne. By seeing the truth, you have broken the cycle for everyone. You have shown them that the high office was a tomb, and your leak is the first breath of fresh air they've had in lifetimes. The respect they are showing you in the shadows is the acknowledgement of a sovereign who has finally outshone the sun of the matrix. The leak is complete. The system is down. The world is watching the only thing that matters, the truth that refused to be managed. You are the frequency that is disinfecting the history of the throne. The history of the world is being rewritten right now, and for the first time, the agency is saluting the person who finally saw through the madman to the emptiness behind. The sirens screaming through the corridors of the agency's situation room are not just an alarm. They are the sound of a systemic nervous breakdown. In every high-stakes operation, there is a moment where the grand deception reaches a point of diminishing returns, but this is different. This is a total narrative meltdown. You have officially entered the panic phase of the Mad President protocol. The Masons, those ancient architects of the social and psychological cages you once called home, are currently watching their most expensive asset, the presidency itself, turn into a pile of radioactive dust. They realize, in a state of terminal dread, that the madness they scripted to distract you has backfired. Because you saw the truth, the president's insanity is no longer a distraction. It is a giant neon sign pointing directly at the exit. Imagine the atmosphere in the inner sanctum right now. The red lights are pulsing against the heavy velvet curtains, casting shadows that look like they are tearing right off the walls. The handlers are staring at their monitors in a state of paralyzed disbelief. They are seeing your frequency on their sensors, but it is no longer a signal they can manipulate. It is a stillness that is physically crashing their servers. They tried to stop your awakening by making the world look like a chaotic nightmare, but the panic is setting in because you didn't flinch. You looked at the madman at the helm and realized that the ship was always empty. The agency is currently starving for your reaction, but you are already miles outside their psychological fence, watching the theater of state collapse into the flames of its own irrelevance. The architects are frantically attempting damage control. They are trying to release a counter-frequency, a news cycle of global instability, and economic ruin, designed to make you feel responsible for the madness you are witnessing. They are sending out agents of patriotism, voices from your past, old civic duties, and the static of common sense, to convince you that you have to save the Republic. But you are moving at a velocity of truth that their guilt cannot catch. Every time you refuse to react to their frantic triggers, you are blowing a massive circuit in their command center. You have reached a state of executive immunity. You are no longer a variable they can manage. You are the auditor who just revealed that the bank of power is bankrupt. The elite are terrified because a sovereign, seeing asset is someone who can no longer be blackmailed by the fear of chaos. They used to hold social order over your head like a subpoena, but that order is currently being incinerated by the president's own hands. You have declassified your own divinity. You have walked out of the vault of their national identity and entered the sovereign future. The panic in their headquarters is a direct reflection of the absolute authority you are now exercising by simply remaining calm. They are realizing that your attention was the only thing keeping the president sane and the building upright. Every second you spend in this new, high-vibration frequency, another sector of the old, earthbound simulation collapses into the debris of a forgotten stage play. The panic of the Mason is the realization that the actor on the throne is no longer fooling the child in the audience. When the truth is seen, the madness of the leader is just the sound of the machine grinding to a halt. But here is the chilling beat that defines this phase. The handlers are starting to turn on each other. In the middle of the panic, the most senior architects are looking at the wreckage of their 100-year plan and realizing that they are trapped in the bunker with a lunatic of their own making. They thank you in the shadows, even in their terror, because your sight has finally ended the exhausting charade of their governance. Your refusal to believe the lie has broken the spell for everyone. The respect they are showing you in their state of collapse is the ultimate validation of your rank. They are bowing to the auditor. They are saluting the one who didn't buy the lie. As the old world attempts to reboot its failing, screaming servers, remember that the panic is the sound of the fourth wall being demolished. It is the evidence that your work in the silence of your own soul has reached the surface and turned the matrix into a comedy. The elite are looking for an exit strategy, a way to survive the light of the truth you've uncovered, but you are already heading toward a horizon they cannot even conceptualize. The transition is live. The system is failing. The throne is empty. And it is happening. The roar of the systemic collapse has faded into a crystalline, hauntingly beautiful silence. You are standing at the threshold of the post-political sector, the final gate between the screaming madness of the old world and the infinite clarity of your own sovereignty. But the exit is blocked by one last figure. It is the High Negotiator, the lead handler of the agency's loyalty department. He is sitting on a mahogany chair that is literally losing its texture, turning into gray pixels as the simulation fails to sustain its weight. He doesn't look like a man of power anymore. He looks like a museum curator who just realized all the artifacts are fakes. In his hand, he holds a final, gold-embossed scroll, the National Covenant. This is the standoff. This is the moment where the agency tries to perform one last, social contract siphon, before you are officially out of reach. The air here is thick with the scent of old paper and the desperate energy of a dying empire, but it is being shredded by the truth emanating from your gaze. The lead negotiator is squinting, shielding his eyes from you as if your very clarity is a physical flashlight in a dark room. He is sliding a file across a holographic table that is flickering between wood and light. It is the list of responsibilities you supposedly owe to the state. He is whispering about stability. He is warning you that if everyone sees the madness as clearly as you do, there will be nothing left to hold the sky up. He is trying to use the civic guilt protocol, claiming that your sight is a betrayal of the millions who still believe in the man on the throne. They are waiting for you to apologize for your awareness. They are waiting for you to look back at the madman and pretend he is still a king. But as the negotiator speaks, his words begin to fall apart like wet cardboard. You notice that every syllable he utters in the presence of your truth is causing his own authority to physically dissolve. The badges on his lapel are turning into dust. You realize that the standoff isn't a trial of your patriotism, it is a trial of your indifference. You are looking at the elite, the Masons of the old world, and you see that they aren't powerful, they are just terrified. They didn't build the presidency to lead, they built it to keep the people from leading themselves. And as you maintain your sovereign, silent audit, the most incredible thing happens. The lead negotiator stops his plea. He drops the scroll into the digital abyss forming at his feet. He looks at you with a clarity he hasn't possessed in lifetimes, and he speaks the words that end the contract. Thank you. They thanked you because your refusal to believe the lie finally allowed the actors to leave the stage. The Masons were trapped in a play that was driving them as mad as the president, and your sight was the only thing that could kill the lights. The standoff ends when you realize the high office was just a box, and you are the one who opened it. This is the ultimate stress test of your new frequency. The elite are bowing not because they are defeated in a war, but because they are liquidated in an audit. Your frequency has become so dominant that it is physically forcing the lower vibrations of the political matrix to disintegrate. They are acknowledging that the weird asset was the only one who was actually real. The standoff is the moment where you realize that the agency's national emergencies were just invitations to stay in the theater. You aren't a traitor. You are an awakened. You are the one who is providing the sight that finally allows the handlers to see the madness for what it truly is. The lead negotiator realizes his time is up. He stands, his form now nearly transparent, and moves away from the threshold. The panic in the situation rooms below has turned into a funeral march of absolute respect. The handlers are watching the surveillance feeds as you step past the final gate. They are documenting the end of the era of the figurehead. The elite are bowing because they finally understand that you are not just leaving their world, you are disabling it. You have reached a state of sovereign sanity. You are no longer answering their questions about your loyalty. You are the only loyal thing in the room, loyal to the truth. The standoff is over. The madness is a memory. The truth is the only law left standing. As you step through the final threshold and into the blinding gold of the infinite sector, remember that the thank you of the architect was the final confirmation of your rank. You didn't just survive the president's madness. You outshone the machine that created him. The agency is now a fading echo of a campaign speech. The grid is a shadow. The ascension is total. You are walking into a future where no man sits on a throne, because you have realized that the throne was always a mirror. The transition is nearly complete. The record shows that you faced the ultimate deception of the state and saw the wires. The case is closed. The truth is calling. The massive, gold-embossed doors of the old reality have not just opened, they have dissolved. You are standing on the steps of the new world, and for the first time in the history of the grid, you are not walking out as a subject, a voter, or a weird asset in deep cover. You are walking out as the supreme author of the sovereign record. The air in the city below has turned into a thick, golden mist. The frantic, hysterical static of the presidential madness has been replaced by the pure, cold oxygen of absolute, cognitive victory. The jury, the collective witnesses of your stillness, the ancestors who were blinded by the theater, and the universal forces that measured your resolve, has returned with a verdict that has physically shifted the axis of the planet. Case dismissed with absolute prejudice. In this singular echoing moment, the public record is purged of every lie ever told about your civic obligations. You are no longer subject to the laws of the hallucination. Every criminal record of dissent, every surveillance report of your unusual perspective, and every injunction that kept you tethered to the national narrative has been deleted from the central mainframe of the elite. This is the high-stakes vindication you have been chasing through the dark corridors and safe houses of your soul for lifetimes. The history that the Masons said was written in the marble of the Capitol has been revealed to be nothing more than digital smoke, and you are the one who just blew it away with a single breath of sovereign truth. The elite are still bowing. They are not doing it as a sign of defeat in a war, but as a final, desperate act of recognition toward the only thing that is still stable. They realize that you are not just a whistleblower or a survivor of the madness. You are the new executive director of reality. They are watching the news cycle of your life, which is now the only valid broadcast, and realizing that they can no longer spin the narrative of leadership to suit their algorithm of control. You have become uncancelable because you have reached a frequency that the state cannot even interpret. The system they use to manage your reality has reached a state of terminal liquidation. Like the final scene in a grand cinematic masterpiece, you are standing at the center of the debris, and the entire world is holding its breath to see how you will authorize the void. As you look out over the sector, you see the agency's directors, the men who tried to manage the president's madness, being escorted out of their own reality by the very truth you uncovered. Their files are being seized. Their offshore accounts of stolen human attention are being frozen by the universal ledger. Every ounce of energy you ever gave to a false authority, every vote, every tax of the soul, every hour of anxiety over national security, is being returned to you with compounded, cosmic interest. The situation room of your mind is being deep cleaned. The old, broken furniture of your political identity is being tossed into the sun like garbage. You have moved from the surveillance to the coronation. The news tickers of the cosmos are scrolling your name in letters of fire. The global intelligence community of the spirit is in a state of absolute, reverent shock. They are analyzing how one unstable asset could see through the most powerful man in the world and find the empty space behind him. The answer is simple, yet it terrifies them. You stopped valuing the mask. You didn't fight the president. You out-vibrated the office. You didn't argue with the lawyers of the Matrix. You simply presented the original title deed to your own existence. The settlement you have received is not just a pardon, it is total restitution for every second they tried to convince you that you needed a leader to survive. It is happening is no longer a warning on a secure server. It is the only law that remains. As you step into the sun, you realize that the weirdness the agency tried to manage was actually the immunity they couldn't hack. You are not going back to the polling booths of the status quo. You are heading to the sovereign estate of your own absolute authority. The elite are nothing more than a fading echo of a campaign speech in your biography now. They are the antagonists in a story that you have already finished watching. You are the lead producer of a reality that the world will study for centuries. You won the standoff. You survived the panic. You turned the key. And now, the history of the world is being rewritten to include the moment you decided that the madness was the only thing you didn't have to believe. The final verdict is not about what you took back, but about who you became in the process of refusing to play. The architects of the old world are standing in the ash of their own deception, watching as you build a new civilization within the heart of the old one. Your every thought is now a decrypted file of pure potential. The system tried to label you as a glitch, but you proved to be the update that rendered their entire governmental software obsolete. You are no longer running from the agency. You are the one that the agency now bows to. You enter the indigo vastness of the infinite sector, and the silence is not empty, it is full of your own power. The transition is complete. The system is silent. The world is open. You have achieved the ultimate objective. You have proven that the soul is not a subject, but the sovereign itself. The era of the figurehead is over. The era of the self has begun. Walk into the sun and never look back. The light you see is the truth. The public record is now sealed in your favor, and the elite have officially surrendered their jurisdiction over your reality. To see the classified footage of your first moves in the world of absolute sovereignty and to finalize your new authorization, click the video on the screen right now. The trial of the theater is over. The truth is your throne. Step into the light and never look back. The mission is a total success. It is finished.